Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone, and good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the 20th Dhamma Q&A session. In today's discussion, we'll be discussing the most important vedana when it comes to creating kusala and akusala, skillful and unskillful activities, probably vipakas as well. So, let's begin. Now, last Monday, we discussed that passa, that means contact, causes Vedana to arise. So, Vedana is arisen because of passa, that means contact. So, let's see the role of Vedana, feeling, in the text before we jump into the Patisamuppada, dependent origination context. As we have repeatedly discussed the fact that Vedana is a part of the seven universal cetasikas, mental factors, it plays a role in each thought, in each consciousness. For example, if you have a kusala consciousness, kusala chitta, or akusala chitta, or any other chittas that we can see in the list of the chittas, 89 chittas or 121 chittas, sabba chitta sadharana, or what we call by universal mental factors, they play the role with every chitta. So that means out of the seven universal mental factors, cetasikas, sabba sadharana, one of them is vedana, feeling. That means it is involuntary. Now, people can be puzzled about the vedana, the feeling. How does vedana arise? Now, this is a very good question. Now, I'm seeing you and I can feel something. At the same time, I'm sitting down here looking at you. So I don't see you, but I know that you're watching me. So I can feel something because I'm sitting down on a comfortable chair, not like super comfortable chair, but I can feel. So there is a bodily, what you call pain and pleasure. At the same time, there is this mental pain and pleasure. So let's sort of break down the pleasure in terms of the main aspect. So we can feel physically, at the same time mentally. But if you look at the seven universal mental concomitants, it says that whenever you have this thought, I would say consciousness, each consciousness has an automatic type of vedana, which means you feel it. They actually call it as an element of the vipaka chitta. I would say that particular vedana arises because of your past life. So this is one aspect of Vedana in general. So this is kind of Abhidharma analysis of the Vedana. But what at the same time, I sort of explain to you about the two dimensions of the pain and pleasure, the main types of feelings, so pleasure and pain. But we know that in the Abhidharma, feeling Vedana, which has both pain and pleasure, is inevitable, which is a part of the seven mental concomitants. But now let's take a look at the Paticcasamuppada context of Vedana. So let's see how Vedana is given in the Paticcasamuppada context. So the same Sutta, Vibhanga Sutta. I guess this is I'm sorry. Vibhanga Sutta, SN Samyutta Nikaya Vibhanga Sutta 12.2. Let me read the Pali paragraph. Katamacha bhikkhave vedana cha ime bhikkhave vedana kaya chakku sampassaja vedana sota sampassaja vedana gahana sampassaja vedana jivha sampassaja vedana kaya sampassaja vedana mano sampassaja vedana ayang uchyati bhikkhave vedana. And what is feeling in the context of the dependent origination? Because we've been talking about the dependent origination, not anything else. There are these 6 classes of feeling. Now we saw that sampassakaya in the previous what we call discussion about the contact, but in today's discussion, we've been talking the classes, I would say, the classes of Vedana. So there are it's kind of a class which has 6 types of feeling. Feeling born of eye contact, that is called chakku sampassaja Vedana. Feeling born of ear contact, that means sota sampassaja Vedana. Feeling born of nose contact, gahana sampassaja Vedana. Feeling born of tongue contact, jivha sampassaja Vedana. Feeling born of body contact, kaya sampassaja Vedana. Feeling born of mind contact, mano sampassaja Vedana. This is called feeling. Now, we don't see the what you call the dichotomy called pain and pleasure in here. Why is it? Why we don't see the pain and pleasure here? Because in the context of the Patisamuppada, the dependent origination, it is more about the certain type of feeling that one acquires through the different contexts. But in the Sutta Pitaka, we can see in many places that feeling has been given as sukha vedana, dukkha vedana, pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and also adukkama sukha vedana, which means it's a mixed feeling. Sometimes people might think that it's a mixed feeling, but it's more likely neither pleasant nor painful feeling, right? So now the question arises, how does the sort of feeling arise in terms of the Patisamuppada? Now, when we talk about passa, contact, we talked about chakku sampassa, sota sampassa, gahana sampassa, which means the contact regarding the eye, contact regarding the ear, contact regarding the tongue, contact regarding the nose, contact regarding the mind, contact regarding the body. So feeling is not any different from what someone can receive through the 6 contacts. So through the 6 contacts, one gets to the feeling in the respective senses. So through the contact of eye, one receives the feeling, which can be either painful or pleasant feeling. Through the contact of ear, one receives either the painful or the pleasant feeling. So this is how it works. Okay, so Dhamma folks, if you have any questions, please type in and I can take a look and I can answer you during the discussion. Keep that in mind. First question, how does Vedana arise? Until Vedana, it is automatic. But after Vedana, an individual, we become deliberate. That's true. Now, up until Vedana, avijja, sankhara, vijnana, namarupa, salayatana, passa. Now, we don't have a lot of control over the sort of contextual things that are happening until Vedana. But at the point of Vedana, or once you had the Vedana, then you are more deliberate. That means this is more likely you are creating ethical consequences. So you are creating, you are ethicizing, you are creating, constructing your ethical components at the point of Vedana. So that means this is kind of scary and terrible. So keep that in mind, because if you don't sort of manage your Vedana, which is a product of all these avidya, sankhara, vijnana, namarupa, salayatana, passa, and then you will be ethicizing your, what you call, actions, thoughts, and words, according to akusala. So Vedana is Vedana is such a very turning point. So be very mindful, because if you can take care of your Vedana, you are not creating any akusala. How many feelings are there? Somebody can sort of answer. A lot of people think there are three feelings, Vedana. Sukha Vedana, pleasant feeling. Dukkha Vedana, unpleasant feeling or painful feeling. And Adukha Masukha Vedana, what you call by neither pleasant nor painful feeling. Now here, I wanted to present you a very nice conversation that happened between a monk and, I guess, is a carpenter. In this conversation, this is mentioned in the Samyutta Nikaya 36.19, Panchakanga Sutta. Okay. Here, there is a discussion that goes between the carpenter and a monk. In the conversation, carpenter does not accept that there are three feelings. He only accepts two feelings. But the monk reiterates that there are three feelings. And then this is taken to the Buddha at the end, and then we can see what the Buddha says. I'm going to read a little bit. Panchakanga Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 36.19. Once, carpenter five tools mean the carpenter had, carpenter normally has tools, right? But he had only five tools. The once carpenter five tools went to see the Venerable Uday, someone. Having saluted him respectfully, he sat down at one side. Thus seated, he asked Venerable Uday, how many kinds of feeling, Reverend Uday, were taught by the Blessed One? Now he questions the monk that as to the number of feelings. Three kinds of feelings, carpenter, were taught by the Blessed One: pleasant, sukha, painful, dukkha, and neutral feeling, adukha masukha. These are the three feelings taught by the Blessed One. After these words, carpenter five tools said, not three kinds of feelings, Reverend Uday, were taught by the Blessed One. So it's kind of not agreeing, to the explanation given by the monk. He didn't agree. It is two kinds of feelings that were stated by the Blessed One, pleasant and painful feeling. So he says, carpenter said to the monk, there are only two kinds of feelings, sukha and dukkha. There is no third kind of feeling. The neutral feeling was said by the Blessed One to belong to peaceful and sublime happiness. So looks like it is an exception. But the Venerable Uday replied, it is not two feelings that were taught by the Blessed One, but three, pleasant, painful, and neutral feeling. So he kept repeating. This exchange of views was repeated for a second and third time, but neither was Carpenter Five Tools able to convince Venerable Uday, nor could the Venerable Uday convince Carpenter Five Tools. It so happened that Venerable Ananda had listened to that conversation and went to see the Blessed One about it. Having saluted the Blessed One respectfully, he sat down at one side. And then the conversation was going, because he explained to the Buddha. And the Buddha said, regarding the Dhamma thus shown by me in different ways, if there are those who do not agree with, do not consent to, and do not accept what is rightly said and rightly spoken, it may be expected of them that they will quarrel and get into arguments and disputes, hurting each other with sharp words. Regarding the Dhamma thus shown by me in different ways, if there are those who agree with, consent to, and accept what is rightly said and rightly spoken, it may be expected of them that they will live in concord and amity without dispute, like milk that easily mixes with water, looking at each other with friendly eyes. And the Buddha says, now, if someone were to say this is the highest pleasure and joy that can be experienced, now somebody can say this is, in my understanding, this is the highest type of pleasure that that person sees. And the Buddha does not agree to that idea. And why not? Because there is another kind of pleasure which surpasses that pleasure and is more sublime. And what is this pleasure? Here, quite secluded from sensual desires, secluded from unwholesome states of mind, someone enters upon and abides in the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, and then going beyond the fourth jhana, arupavachara jhanas, the first arupavachara jhana, second, third, fourth, he attains the fourth jhana, fourth arupavachara jhana, called neva sanya, na sanya, neither perception nor non-perception. So that means this is the highest pleasure someone can gain in this life. I mean, if that person does not continue towards the vipassana and to attain nibbana. So that means if someone is to talk about happiness, I would say pleasure, there's always a dispute can happen. There's always a fight can happen. There's always an argument can arise. A commotion can happen. Because there are other types of pleasures people can enjoy. But if we talk about something spiritual, now, why did the ascetics and these, teachers in the pre-Buddhist India practice jhanas? It is none other than attaining the highest pleasure. Jhana was the highest pleasure. But the most important thing is that jhanic happiness, jhanic pleasures were really dispassionate. They are not passionate. So now you're all talking about pleasure through the rupa, saddha, gandha, rasa, pottabha, dhamma, right? The six sensual things. But the perception, the idea that was maintained by the teachers at the Buddha's time was to go into a spiritual happiness. But it is not nibbana. It is kind of spiritual. It's more spiritual. Once they cannot suspend any more of their karmas, then they also get back to normal, like the normal beings. So the most important thing is the Buddha's idea that you don't need to argue with anyone about different happiness types and so on and so forth, because there's always an idea about a different pleasure and pain. Question. And also the Buddha explained at the end of the sutta what is his real understanding about the feeling Vedana. To him, he says, Buddha speaks of the cessation of perception and feeling and describes it as pleasure. Sanya Vedaita Nirodha. So Buddha asks us to cease our Vedana, because Vedana is the problem. Whenever you indulge in your pleasure, whenever you indulge in sometimes your pain, that is the problem. That is why we are always bogged down by, or I would say attacked by different other things. Like, the thing that we will be talking next Monday, tanha, right? It is because of the mismanagement of the Vedana. So the Buddha says, don't look at what the sort of good pleasure, right? Don't look for pleasures. look at the cessation of pleasure, how to cease my pleasure, right? So that is something interesting. That is what he says in that Sutta, Panchakanka Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 36.90. Now here is a question. I can feel happiness, sukha, and dukkha, pain, but I can understand adukkama sukha. How to understand adukkama sukha is this upekka vedana in the Abhidharma. Okay, a very interesting question. Now, a lot of people think now, some people call it upekka. Actually, in the Abhidharma, they say somanasa sahagata, that means pleasure, pleasant feeling, and then domanasa sahagata, unpleasant feeling, at the same time, upekka sahagata. Now, upekka in the Abhidhamma context is not the lofty upekka that we know, Brahma Vihara upekka or Sankara upekka. Now, upekka in the context of Abhidhamma is a state of neutrality. So you are neutral. You are not either happy or not unhappy. So what you need to understand about the adukkama sukha vedana is that a different type of thing that we can say in a sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 44. I think this sutta is what you call Chulavedala Sutta. In that sutta, we can see a question to the Dhammadina. Lady, what is pleasant and what is painful in regard to pleasant feeling? What is painful and what is pleasant in regard to painful feeling? Now, it is always relative, right? I mean, you talk about the pain relative to the pleasure. You talk about the pleasure relative to the pain, right? So you can't take it alone. Pain and pleasure, it is always relative. Whenever you are experiencing one or the other, you are always taking it as being pleasant or unpleasant, looking at the other side. And what is pleasant and what is painful in regard to neutral feeling? Here's the answer. Friend Visakha, pleasant feeling is pleasant when it persists, and painful when it changes. Painful feeling is painful when it persists and pleasant when it changes. Neutral feeling is pleasant when there is knowledge of it, and painful when there is no knowledge of it, which means how we can separate out adukkama sukha, I mean the what you call adukkama sukha vedana from the previous two is the knowledge about this particular state of mind, I would say, the state of feeling, happy or unhappy, and it is dependent on the knowledge. You are conscious, you are knowledgeable about the particular pleasure or pain. If you are not, if you have the absence of knowledge, that is also part of adukkama, which means, let's say, if you have a knowledge of pleasant feeling, it is also neutral feeling, adukkama. If you have a knowledge about pleasant feeling, that is neutral feeling. And neutral feeling can also become painful when there is no knowledge. So that means when you have a knowledge about the sort of pleasantness and unpleasantness, that is a part of adukkama sukha. So anyways, upekka is a word where we understand by neutrality. It's not the lofty upekka that we know under the 4 Brahma Viharas. Here is a very interesting question. How do we separate emotion from Vedana? Now, a lot of people ask this question all the time. How do we separate emotion from Vedana? I will tell you the shortest answer possible. Emotion is an experience, but Vedana is the actual experience. Now, for example, I would say Vedana is a separate aggregate. Emotion belongs to the Sankhara Kanda. Sankhara Kanda means formation, because in order for you to be emotional, there was something that had to be processed. So let me sort of explain to you a little bit more. Now, when people ask you, how are you feeling today? Now when somebody asks you, how are you today, right? And you have an emotion about it, right? So perhaps it can be an extension of your feeling or in relation to the feeling, but what you have to understand, it is not feeling. Emotion is more likely a previously processed thing, which is a part of Sankhara Kanda. Now let's sort of delineate a little bit more. Emotion is perception based. Now, emotion is mostly perception based. Now, the moment you perceive anything, then you sort of perceive that thing. So that's an emotion. But what do you call feeling? Feeling is the whole combination. So if we say this way, emotion is perception based relative to memory and the result of the contact feeling combination. Now, passa vedana combination. So one more time, emotion is perception based. It is based on sanya and relative to memory and the result of the contact feeling combination. What you call by passa vedana combination. Perception, now because emotion is a perception, right? It's a part of perception. So perception, sanya, is basically awareness of an object's distinctive marks. Now one perceives different colors and so on and so forth, right? If in repeated perception of an object, these marks are recognized, let's say that you already know something, this is a part of sanya, and then you re-understand, re-identify, recognize what was understood before with a new situation, then perception functions as memory, because now you are recognizing something that is close to, that is compatible, similar to a previous thing. Emotion is built on the collective distinctive marks of our experience. Now, if you can see this whole collective as a place where you can see distinctive marks of your experience. Now your experiences include a lot of sanya, because these sanyas help you to recognize what was happened, and at the same time you are creating new sanyas for the future. Let's say you are recognizing, identifying something with the past. At the same time, you are sort of nodding for the future. So sanya always, sanya always fulfills two things actually, recognizing the past things, at the same time nodding for the future. So the most important thing here is this whole experience which the sanya has created and which the sanya will create for the future is what constructs your emotions. So emotions are based on this whole experience which has previous and future sanya. So that means emotion is not feeling in Buddhism. Emotion is sanya. Okay. So what happens is that whenever you do your sanya, when you fulfill you create your sanya for the past and the future, then your emotions start to begin, right? Start to process. But once your emotions are processed, they become a part of Sankhara Kanda. Sanyakanda becomes Sankarakanda, because Sankarakanda is the place where you have all these experiences. So that means Vedana Kanda. Vedana is an existing something, which means it's a present thing. But emotion is always a perceived thing, Sanya Kanda. But then it will be transformed, it will be contained in the Sankara Kanda. So when somebody asks you, you know what, do you think feeling and emotion, they are, similar? No, they are not similar in Buddhism. Emotion is Sanya Kanda, and then it will become Sankara Kanda, but Vedana, feeling, is Vedana Kanda. It's two separate things. Any questions so far? Okay, I don't see any questions so far. What is the feeling in the 5 aggregates? Panchakanda. Okay, Panchakanda has a different context of Vedana, right? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Now, somebody may ask a question, what is the difference between an inanimate thing and animate thing? I would say this has no Vedana, right? But this has the 4 elements: Patavi, solidness; Apo, fluidity; Tejo, temperature; Vayu, space, right? But this doesn't have Vedana. But beings like you and I, we all have Vedana. So that means the Vedana is only relevant to the beings. That is why Panchakanda analysis is only applicable to the beings. So the Vedana that we see in the Panchakanda is only for the beings. Beings include animals, human beings, Deva beings, and the Brahma beings. Okay. I hope that it's not a big deal, because you understand 5 aggregate analysis is only applicable to humans. So the Vedana is only for the beings, actually, not for the humans, actually, beings. So beings only experience the Vedana, and not the inanimate things, like not the things that don't have a life, especially this life consciousness, Bhavanga Vijnana. Here's another interesting question. Is whatever felt subject to dukkha? It is. It is. Is everything that we feel is subject to dukkha. The moment you try to feel is the moment you start creating your dukkha. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. The moment you start to feel anything, especially now, including the jhanas, they are not any exception, because they change. The problem is all the Vedanas, feelings, are subject to change, except the Nibbana. That is why in one of the suttas, Arahant Sariputta explains to another monk called, I guess his name was Mahakotita. He was explaining to the Venerable Arahant Mahakotita that Nibbana has a happiness, but it is not to be felt. Avedaita. Then Venerable Arahant Mahakotita raises a question back to Arahant Sariputta. Then, I mean, if there is no feeling that we can feel, you saying there is a feeling, this is the happiest feeling, but you also explained that there's nothing to be felt, then how can that be a good feeling? Arahant Sariputta said, that is the happiest thing. That is the most important thing behind Nibbana. Nibbanic happiness is the greatest. Every happiness, every feeling, I mean, regardless of happy, painful, upekka, they all subject to impermanence. This is where you're getting very upset. This is where you're getting so much frustrated. Even listening to anything, even doing anything, they all are subject to changes, except Nibbana. Nibbana is the happiest state of in Buddhist life, but it is not to be felt. That is the greatest thing according to the Arahant Sariputta, which he said to Venerable Mahakotthita. So every feeling is subject to dukkha, because you never bring anicca, dukkha, anatta perspective to any of your feeling. Whenever something pleasant, you think it is pleasant. It will stay longer, right? This is you feel, but it is not. Whenever something bad happens, only you think. I mean, a lot of people also don't think that it will change. Even COVID situation, they never think that this shall go, right? They never think that way. Whenever a good thing happens to you, whenever a good feeling arises in you, you always think this is going to be there for long, and then you will be frustrated because it will go away. The moment that something bad happens to you and you're having a lot of bad feelings, and you never think that it will go away as well. Dukkha also subject to change. That is why the Buddha said, do not slave to feeling. Because the moment you start to slave to any, the moment you try to like any feeling, then what happens? You start your own creation of your dukkha. Why Vedana is a big part of dukkha experience? All problems arise when we delight in feeling. Vedana Paccha Tanha, actually the next Nidana, which is which creates by the Vedana, is Tanha. The moment you have a Vedana, if you don't bring Anicca Dukkha Anatta Vipassana perspective, then what happens? This Vedana, this ignorance of handling the Vedana will create Tanha. That is why we are not supposed to indulge in any Vedana. Just watch it. Just watch your Vedana, that's it. Don't try to cling to that. Don't try to attach to it. Right? Because you can't walk away from your inside. So just look at it. That's it. You are not clinging. You are not giving it up. It is just something happening within you. What is the connection of Vedana in the process of papancha, proliferation? Majjhima Nikaya 18, there's a sutta called Madhupindika. Buddha says, Chakkuncha avasu paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku viññānam tinnang sangati passo pasapacca vedana yang vedeti tan sanjanati yang sanjanati tan vitakketi yang vitakketi tan papancheti yang papancheti tato nidanang purisam papancha sanya sanka samudacharanti atitanagata pachuppannesu chakku viññesu rupesu. What is papancha? Now, in short, papancha means the overall process of creating our defilements. Now, you might perhaps think that whenever you have lobha, dosa, moha, you are creating akusala, right? Whenever you have kama, bhava, ditta, vijja, you creating taints, asavas. But if you take the overall teachings of the Buddha, and then look at the big perspective of the defilements, that is what the Buddha mentioned by papancha. So we are not supposed to proliferate. But the thing that I wanted to show you is that what kind of a role does Vedana play in the proliferation process? Now, just take an example. Chakkuncha avaso paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku. Now, this is something automatic. Whenever your eyes are attacked by, I would say, attack or, being adverted, I would say, whenever a rupa comes to your eye, then what happens? There is chakku viññāna, which is the respective consciousness of the sense. In this case, eyes. Tinnang sangati passo. So when the sense and the sort of object and the particular consciousness come together, there is the contact, passa, which we talked last week. Passa pacha vedana. Immediately contact arises, then what happens? Because of the contact, there is a process happening, and that whole process creates the next level. That is a Vedana, which we talked today. But now is a terrible thing happening. Yang vedeti tang sanjanati. Whenever you perceive anything, then what happens? Whenever you are feeling anything out of the previous process up to that point, then you are perceiving. Whenever you are perceiving, you are ideating. Whenever you are ideating, you are proliferating. You are proliferating different things based on previous, uh, previous objects of, especially in this case, images, sites, at the same time the future and the present sites. So this is how you're gonna create your proliferation. At the end, proliferation is a mixture of three things: tanha, mana, ditthi: craving, measuring, and viewing. So the important thing is that once you have contact, then you are creating tanha, vedana, and then vedana is creating the rest of all the unnecessary chaotic thing. So proliferation is highly connected to Vedana. Okay, another question. Is the Vedana double? One is wounded, so physical pain and mental pain. I mean, yeah, it seems so. Now, whenever you cut your skin, cut your body for some reason, whenever there's a cut, there's a burn or something, you can feel both the physical pain at the same time the mental pain, because you're not happy about it. Right? So there is always a double layer of the feeling, right? Now, for example, I would say that for the first five, sense faculties and the objects, when they get together, you have this, what you call the physical feeling, be that happy, unhappy, or dukkha. And then after that, immediately, the mind conditions those five things. They are subject to the mind processing, right? This is what we see in Abhidharma too. So then there is a different mental feeling you have it, which means that you have a physical feeling, then you have a mental feeling. So it looks like that feeling is double layered. Can you explain Vedana with regard to Kamma? How do people of different realms experience Kamma, Vipaka? Very interesting. Now, Vedana is related to many things. Now, why do people not involve in bad things? But they don't like it. They don't like to experience pain in next lives. Most people think so. I'm not supposed to kill. I'm not supposed to steal. I'm not supposed to misbehave. I'm not supposed to, I would say, lie. I'm not supposed to, take beverages and food that can cause me, this lack of proper judgment over anything. So people, they think that if they do something bad, they will get the repercussions in this life or in the future life. So that means Vedana is highly related to the Kamma, right? In the same way, if you do a good thing, you have a perceptive mind about good vipakas, a good Kamma vipakas. You can be reborn in a higher place, heavens, or I would say Brahma worlds. So because of Vedana, people sometimes, I think probably for the most part of their life, they are doing good things, right? So Vedana is that connected to our life. That is the reason. So Vedana is not only a feeling, but also a life changing kind of a topic. That is why people also sort of get away from the bad things and do the good things. Why Nibbana is explained in the context of Vedana, I think I already explained to that, to that person. It is because Vedana that we can see in the Nibbana is feeling less kind of Vedana. There's no feeling actually. That is, if there is anything that you think there is no feeling type of thing, that is the greatest Vedana. But if there's any feeling that you can feel, either for the good side, pleasant side, or painful side, or Pekka side, neutral side, then that will definitely cause a lot of problems to you. So Nibbana is Avedaita. It is the greatest happy feeling, but it is not to be felt. As long as you are not feeling it, you are the happiest. But whenever you get into that state of mind, you are good. You are no more, having troubles with your feeling. Okay. Any questions so far? Let me see. Not yet. Let me read some of the suttas about, I would quote, depending on the time, couple suttas, probably one, two. Sampassaja Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 25.5. In this sutta, what we can say is, one with faith, saddha, in the teachings on the six kinds of feeling. That means six kind of feeling. Chakkusota Gana Juha Kaya Mana is called a follower by faith. Now, that means saddhanusari. That means now a lot of people ask questions about where am I now? Am I a sotapanna person? You may be not, but you may be the first type of person that we understand in the Dhamma, whom we call by saddhanusari. Saddhanusari person is someone who has trust, faith, I would say saddha, in the teachings on the six kinds of feeling. Chakku, sota, gana, jiva, kaya, mana. Right? If somebody has trust about these six feelings, especially not the feelings and teachings about this. Teachings always are being explained in a way that they are impermanent. So if you have trust about this teaching about the impermanence of the six feelings, then you will become a saddhanusari person. While someone with conceptual understanding is called a follower of the teachings, dhammanusari. And there may be another person who takes an initiative, who takes a step further, who not only trusts but also conceptualizes the teachings about Vedana that we can see in the Dhamma, especially in this sutta, some passages sutta and many other suttas. That person is called Dhammanusari. Now, who is Saddhanusari? Who is Dhammanusari? Saddhanusari person is someone who only has trust over the teachings about the feeling that we can see scattered in the Dhamma. Then who is the Dhammanusari person? Someone who not only has the trust about the teachings about the feelings that the Buddha and other monks have imparted us, but also someone who can conceptualize those teachings, who can conceptualize about who can cognize what those teachings are. That person is called Dhammanusari. Now you can self-check with these two analyses. But someone who sees them directly, not through the trust, not through the conceptualization, but directly, is called a sotapanna, stream bearer. Now, if you are someone who only has trust over the teachings of the Buddha, especially the Vedana teachings, or you are someone who only conceptualizes as I would say, someone who is knowledgeable, you are not a sotapanna person. But if you can always directly cognize what's going on, directly understand what's going on with you, especially your feelings, you are a sotapanna. Reference is Sampassaja Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 25.5. Okay. So now we know I have nothing in particular, in my preparation, but I wanted to sort of talk about Vedana in other contexts too. Now, Vedana is directly connected to our path because the Four Noble Truths are always, combined with the idea of pain, suffering, dukkha, dissatisfaction. So that means it is a problem with regard to the Vedana, right? It is a problem that is really about the Vedana. This is why Buddha asks us to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. So, what we have to understand about Vedana is that Vedana is one of the most important highlights of the Dhamma. I mean, for some people, they might think, okay, I'm happy, I'm unhappy, I'm neutral, so that's it. I mean, this is how you're gonna receive your feelings. But if you can sort of pay attention to the larger, broader perspective of the Dhamma, you can see Vedana is the fundamental incentive, probably the motivation even for the Shakyamuni, I would say the Prince Siddhartha, to leave the house, the palace, because he felt he was not happy about what he saw. He was not happy about what he saw. That means Vedana, right? And then when he went on his own search and he found out couple philosophers, I mean those spiritual philosophers, Alara Kalama, Bhargava, Uddaka Ramputta, and what he attained with the support of them was also a different type of happiness, jhanic happiness. And he knew that jhanic happiness would not take me to the place where I am supposed to go. And then he tried another type of feeling, I would say the 6 years of ascetic practices. It's also a feeling, giving a lot of pain and pain. And then he understood by himself that I have to go in between. And there I understand this mediocre, I would say, Sankarupekka perspective. Sankarupekka perspective means, now, the Upekka has a couple ways, Sankarupekka means that I'm looking at everything with Upekka, this lofty Upekka that we know in the Dhamma. Then only he understood Upekka is much better than Sukha and Dukkha. So that means Vedana plays the most important role behind our epistemological search, behind our motivation to learn the Dhamma, behind our understanding to progress in our own Dhammic path, behind our learning of the Dhamma, behind creating more good karmas, behind understanding the greatest happiness called Nibbana. So Vedana applies to almost everything. There's nothing that is out of Vedana. That is why once you have Vedana, if you are not taking care of your Vedana, if you are not paying proper attention to your Vedana, you will create Tanha. And there's one question, I will get to that after I finish something really interesting here. So what are you supposed to do with your Vedana? I wanted to sort of reiterate one more time. Okay, our feelings, Vedana, at the same time are emotions. Emotions are coming from the perceptions. They are always regularly changing. So do not attach to them because they are changing. But unfortunately, you wanted to take a risk. You want to take a chance and see what's going to happen. And then you are in trouble. So if it is going to change, then if you think that it is not changing in your deep mind, then you will be a victim of your own feelings, right? Now, this is what happens. You are attaching other people into emotions, and people who you loved, and when they change from you, and you take in that pain to your feeling, right? So, one of the good ways to sort of manage your Vedana is Satipatthana. It's an easy thing, It's not that easy, but you understand it. Kayanupassana. Mindfulness you are creating based on your bodily things, activities, and then Vedananupassana, mindfulness that you are creating through your own feelings. There, Vedananupassana. See, that is the greatest way. Vedananupassana. Vedananupassana is really connected to your Vedana. So Buddha asks us to always be mindful through your feelings, through our feelings. And Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. So Vedananupassana is the best practice for you to have in terms of managing your Vedana. Okay, so that is what you're supposed to do. Let me get to the question. Bhante, please explain this. When you don't know pleasant or unpleasant feeling, sukha, dukkha, Vedana, then avijjanusaya underlies in you. Thank you. Let me think about it. Yeah, we are having sukha or dukkha automatically, naturally, for the most part of our experiences, right? Because avijja, sankara, vijnana, namarupa, salayatana, phassa, and we have no control over all these things. Avijja is always there. Ignorance is always there. Because of ignorance, we are subject to be reborn, right? So there's always avijja being latent behind our everything. Okay, so if we talk about the vipaka level of our previous life, now normally in the Abhidharma, Theravada Abhidharma, they talk about vipaka chittas, wherein which all our vijnanas are based on previous lives experiences. So that means whenever you are moody, whenever you are not happy without a particular reason, that means you are experiencing a previous karma. That means you have no control over it. But if you are someone who is now receiving deliberate contacts, and you know that you are having contacts and you are receiving Vedana, if you are not trying to practice Vedana Anupassana at that point, then it is a huge, mistake. It's a huge, I think it's not just a mistake, sansara mistake that you are creating. So what you have to do is, avijja is always latent until we attain Nibbana one day in our sansara. But there are two types of Vedana feelings that can affect us: previous life and this life, previous lives and this life. So we can manage those Vedanas. I mean, not the previous life one, this life one, by practicing Vedana Anupassana. We can also sort of manage our previous life experiences too, because whenever you are unhappy, you know what to do. You have to practice. You are supposed to practice Vedana Anupassana. You understand how do we practice it? The moment you are happy, you feel you are happy, you feel you are unhappy, don't try to encourage you to continue. You try to think that feelings are subject to changes. So I understand these feelings are not stable. They are subject to changes. So I wanted to understand it in my deep down mind, deep down heart as well. So I don't want to let it, grow. I want to let it grow, let it go actually. So in that way, with the practice of Vedana Anupassana, you are creating a very comfortable, very good person. It doesn't mean you don't have feelings. You have feelings, but you are managing them properly, right? So you need to manage your feelings until you attain the Nibbana. Okay, any more questions? The feeling in Patisamuppada and five khandhas and Satipatthana refer to the same. A very good question. Okay, what is feeling in Patisamuppada? In Patisamuppada, feeling, okay, in the Patisamuppada, what we can see is the process of the feeling. In the Panchakanda, it is the process version of the feeling. That means you can see the process of the feel. How does the feeling arise? How does the feeling process in the Patisamuppada? That is Pasapacha Vedana. But if you see Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana context, Panchakanda context, five aggregate context, there is the already constructed form, process, feeling there. So it is different. How do we know that? Now, in the Patisamuppada, we don't look at a particular person, but we see this is the theory that is applicable to anyone. But in the Panchakanda, we all are Panchakandas now. So we have this process feeling all the time. We have Sankarakanda all the time. So we are processing all the time. We are processing, and we have a lot of process feelings. Satipatthana is the antidote. I would say it is the place where the Buddha asks us to practice, you know, the treatment for the Vedana. So Satipatthana gives us the treatment to what we need to do as to what we need to do about the Vedana. So Satipatthana is the what you call sort of treatment towards the Vedana, but Vedana in the Patisamuppada and the five aggregates, they are two different type contexts. Okay, so there are no more questions. We're gonna wrap this up by sharing good karmas. Okay. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be transferred to all the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Let's share all the good karmas with the deities and the nagas who protect and bless all of us. May the deities and the nagas share all these good karmas and bless all of you for good health, long life. Some people don't like long life. They like quality of life. At the same time, all the prosperity. May all the deities and nagas also attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavata cha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti sindhya akasatta cha bummatta devanaga mahittika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu lokasasanang chirang rakhantu desanang chirang rakhantu mang paranti. Finally, let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Abhivadana siris nichang vadha pachayino chattaru dhamma vadhanti ayuvanu sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminati Saminchatu. Dharma folks, we have the next Monday Q&A session about Tanha, which will be a very interesting, very eye-opening discussion because Q&A session because Tanha is the process version of your Vedana. And on August 3rd, it's going to be a Tuesday, I'll be interviewing a professor at UBC Vancouver about kind of a different topic, Socrates and the Buddha. So what we can learn through the philosophical, I would say, epistemological, ontological intersections about these two great teachers, Socrates and the Buddha. So I would encourage you to participate if you have time. But the problem is it's going to be at 3 p.m. on August 3rd. It's going to be very early morning to all of you in Asia. So you can probably watch the recorded version. But for other people who are watching from Europe and North America, they can stay too. Okay, so take care. Please continue to take care of you and have a good night. Have a good day ahead of you. Thank you.